Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's my biggest pleasure to welcome you on behalf of Y Summits to the biggest last virtual event of this year. It's our 15th annual Biopharma and MedTech PPM conference. And I've been putting this conference together with my team for the past 2 months, and seeing the fruit of coming all this together, it's the biggest gift. I'm very excited and pleased to be welcoming all of our speakers and all the attendees here, all of our sponsors. Thank you everyone for joining us. This is going to be a wonderful ride, and I cannot wait. I'm Katie. I'm the host of this entire event, trying to make you feel comfortable and calm, and I'll try to make you laugh a little bit, trying to bring in a little bit of a joke here and there. So let's see how it goes. And please enjoy it. Enjoy all of what's coming. It's a 2-day long event filled with wonderful keynotes, wonderful panel discussions, and case studies, Q&As. And that's probably all for now. We've got a PPM community dedicated for all the PPM professionals who are like-minded. There's a PPM workout community which is open up to all. Please, there is a group dedicated there. If you have any questions, if a panel discussion ends and you want to carry on, please go there, sign up. It's all free and it's all for you. So for now, that's actually all for me. I would love to welcome our dear friend and such a kind soul, SACHIN RAJE. Hello, welcome.
Hey, Katie. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for joining us. You've got quite a lot on your shoulders. You'll be opening up the entire 2-day long event. So welcome. Please feel no pressure. And just to say a few brief things about you. Hopefully everyone knows SACHIN by now, but in case, he's going to be presenting a wonderful keynote on the continuing evolution of PMOs. And just to say a few words about SACHIN, he's the Director, Strategy Realization Office, Global Medical Affairs, and Global Medical and Scientific Affairs from Merck. He is a very passionate individual, and it's my honor to have you on board. So thank you so much. Please enjoy the session, everyone. There's going to be Q&A at the end, so use the comment section to write down anything you'd like, and SACHIN and I will take a few minutes towards the end to actually answer your questions. So with that in mind, enjoy all of this, and SACHIN, I'm going to give you my word. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks a lot, Katie, and good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, good evening to all of you who joined. This is a pleasure and a privilege to kick off the Biopharma and MedTech PPM conference for this year. An exciting bunch of speakers, truly amazing roster of speakers who are going to be following. And I'm as excited as you probably are to listen to some of the topics which are coming up. So without sort of further ado, just a quick introduction on me. I've not to date myself, but 30+ years experience in management and consulting. And I have had the privilege and the opportunity to set up and improve PMOs across a bunch of companies in various verticals, some of them in healthcare and life sciences, but otherwise in other settings such as retail and banking and financials and insurance and so forth. So I also had my own startup company for 8 years, so had the occasion of working as the president and the janitor for a company. Currently, I lead a team of an extremely talented team of program managers in a strategy realization office at Merck's Global Medical and Scientific Affairs. I also run a not-for-profit organization supporting underprivileged women and children. I happen to be a musician, so I have performances to raise money for some charity, and then written a couple of books. I happen to be in New Jersey, USA. So let me just get started on this side of life. It was interesting to me that just yesterday I came across a beautiful article in Harvard Business Review, in the latest Harvard Business Review, which came out, which kind of supported some of the stuff which I had put together for the talk for today. But it essentially talks about this difference of running from operations into projects, right? The fact that so far the world was all about running and optimizing operations to get better, and while now the world is moving towards a more projects world where we are changing organizations, we are transforming organizations, we are changing the way we work on things. And this quote was kind of very interesting, that projects have displaced operations as the economic engine of our times. By 2027, some 88 million people around the world are likely to be working in a project management environment, and the value of project-oriented economic activity will have reached $20 trillion. Uh, this is significant because as we think about the impact of running the projects and managing the projects that we have got, the economic impact is significant. So working more effectively and more efficiently is one of the things that PMOs across the world are challenged with. Project management and project manager skills are in greater and greater demand, and hence it behoves us to sort of think about the various different ways and opportunities that we've got, which are coming up in our current world. So a quick look at the evolution of PMOs, and the reason I bring this up is because there's a shift in how we basically have started managing our work as project managers, and the various functions that we've got, the way we try to get together and consolidate over a period of time. So it all kind of began with the notion of a project office way back in the 50s, when there was a notion of consolidating the various sort of types of work that you have into a little bit of more of a structure, and that quickly evolved into a system program office. And then the next term, which when I picked up working in the industry in the 80s, was the project management office. So the PMO grew to be called the project management office, and this was a little more of setting up standards and templates and reusable processes and so forth. So that is what became project management office, and somewhere along the line there was the term morphed into the higher level of it, which became the program management office, and creeping in the whole mix somewhere was portfolio management office as the third layer above it. But right now, when we talk about the PMOs, we're talking about program management offices as a term. So the term has now come to mean program management office more than any other P's that you could be using, whether for project or portfolio. So as you see, what this is doing is that the focus has largely been on increasing the levels of control and efficiency, to get a little bit more of a consistency, repeatability, structure around the projects. There's a large variation in functions, focus, and maturity and scope of work of PMOs, right? We have PMOs at different levels of maturity. Maturity is a term which is obviously sometimes a little misunderstood and sometimes even abused. What it means is PMOs have different focus. There is no such one type of PMO, as you all know, where you have one type of PMO which basically does everything in a similar cookie cutter way. Depending on what kind of industry we are in, and depending on what kind of functions we are in, we have PMOs at enterprise levels, we have PMOs at functional levels, in some cases even PMOs which come together for a particular large event, such as a divestiture or a merger and acquisition, where you have a PMO coming together just for that purpose. So depending on what the PMOs are about, there's a huge variability between the functions, the focus, the maturity, the scope of work that we talk about. So a lot of the things that we are talking about in that context are going to resonate differently with people depending on which part of the PMO that they are in, or which cycle of PMO that they are in, or which function of the PMO they are in. So what I'm going to focus on today is not just talk about the sort of structure of the PMO itself, but what it means and what it can deliver in terms of a throughput, and that is something which is fairly unique. So that takeoff leads us to a new world which is coming up, a term which was coined, used by Gartner in 2029, which was the Strategy Realization Office. And the Strategy Realization Office is one which is focused more to align with goals and strategy. We're going to talk a little about that. It's not as if every project management office or a program management office is going to grow up into a strategy realization office. It's just a different way that that things get organized. Uh, it's easy to sort of think of it in terms of this is now where we are really going to get mature, and we're all grown up now, and now we're going to call it a strategy realization office. But having said that, it is certainly one of the aspirational uh, sort of directions that the PMOs are heading towards. So let's think about the journey in a slightly different context, because this is where it doesn't really matter what kind of PMO we have got in place. Uh, it all started from an ad hoc ways, individual ways of working, right? So we basically projects were getting done, but they were getting done uh, individual heroic ways of working, individual styles of working, and then somebody decided, oh, it's time to get a little more efficient. So efficiency became the norm, and then when in efficiency, you started thinking in terms of how can we have processes which are repeatable, how can we have templates, how can we have reports which will look kind of have the same look and feel. And this is where the the train somewhere stops in a number of the PMOs that I've seen. A true story is I was got on to see if we could improve the efficiency and effectiveness of a program management office in one of the largest uh, utility companies in the United States. And when I was brought on, the problem statement was, hey, we seem to have uh, not the throughput we're expecting from the PMO, and can you tell us why, and how can we improve? Um, when I looked at all the artifacts, I had discussions with the various PMs in the group. Um, the checklist culture was perfect in the sense all the artifacts were being done. So there was a risk log, there was reports which are coming out, there was a project management plan, and everything was basically done from an efficiency perspective was in place. Yet what was clearly missing was the ability to move and get more effective. And that was something which I find in a number of places where we have the various artifacts and documents that we have within a PMO. They are filled in, but they're not necessarily understood from why they are filling them in. So I'll give you an example. When you think in terms of a project, I know all of us know that we start off with a project charter. Oftentimes, in my organization, for example, we have a two-page project charter. That's it. But the reason that project charter is so important to us is because it helps us to think through the project before we get started, make sure we have the scope right, make sure we focus on what the deliverables are going to be, make sure we understand what kind of timelines and hence what kind of people resources we're going to be needing over here. And of course, we think in terms of what kind of risks we have over here, which can derail the projects. And then finally, of course, what are the benefits which are going to be accrued from the project. Now, you could take this and say, I'm just going to fill in the buckets and say, okay, what's the project all about, and what's the risks and that you've got, and the top 3 risks over there, and so forth, and just make it an exercise of checklist. It looks complete. You move on, you file the thing, and say, okay, I've got to sign off. Well, let's get moving on the project. If you do just that much, you're probably missing the larger picture, right? There is an opportunity when you're thinking about a project, and the famous statement about from Eisenhower, which is, plans are worthless, but planning is everything. The planning is the stage where you basically think about how to use the project charter to truly align the entire project team, including the subject matter experts that you have, and to get them to basically align with the way you want to think. So effectiveness is something which becomes lost in the process, and far from it is the benefits realization, the strategy realization piece, if we stop at the level of efficiency. So that's one of the pitfalls that I've always like to point out is this is not just about making sure you have repeatable processes and reports and stuff, but it's also how effective did you get with working over here. Benefits realization is a word which has been around for the last maybe 10 or 15 years, pretty much like the word agile, or the agility and stuff like that. And everybody seems to sort of think that they know what the thing is about, and yet it's not focused on enough, in my opinion. So this is one of the things which I just want to sort of talk about when you talk about the evolution of the PMOs, is to think in terms of how we get from an individual way of working to get more effective, and then eventually is to make sure that the benefits and the strategy are realized. So just to sort of put it in the terms of what each of these things means, to me, efficiency means there's a checklist culture, which means you make sure that everything which you have is checked off, and you have the various artifacts, like I said, and a checklist. Yes, they've done all of those things. But what that does is it brings uniformity and structure, which is a good thing. So there is a repeatability and understanding which can happen. But the challenge often is, like I mentioned in the example before, is that the letter of the artifact is followed, but the spirit is often missed. So think in terms of even if you have a risk log, for example, right? All project managers know that there is a risk log or a RAID log or a grid-all or any of those terms that we use. What tends to happen is we put up a risk log over here and put risks in a log and forget to use that in improving the project plan, because risks are things which you want to sort of, any mitigations that you think about, you want to make sure you put them back into the project schedule and plan out accordingly. If we haven't done that, then the artifact is followed, but the spirit is missed. So that's the kind of thing which happens, the same thing as I mentioned in the project charter, where you use to fill up the artifact, but we don't use why we're using it, and to use the opportunity to rally the entire project team around the project itself. Uh, in this efficiency mode, the rewards are for completion of the projects and things like on time and on budget, which was a term which we used to hear in the late 90s. Still to hear it in times, and it is a good one, but it's not the complete story. Completion of the deliverables, if you've delivered everything, that's just great, but nobody bothers once the project is completed whether the benefits had been realized or not. And that is one of the major pitfalls of going that efficiency route. So if you have a PMO which basically stops at this level, you may be leaving some things on the table. So that's one of the things. The second thing which you think about is in terms of effectiveness, right? Now, this is where you take it to the next level, where you say you're managing your resources a little more effectively. You've got multiple projects in the program. You can use the resources that you have optimally to sort of move, and resources are not just human resources, but also other resources that you have are balanced out better. You use them more effectively. If there are any inter-project dependencies, those are managed a little better. And the big one, which I see in quite a number of companies, is the redundancies, right? You have, especially in large organizations, you may have projects which are going on in different parts of the world trying to solve the same exact problem. So if you a classic example is the chatbot. It was one of the things which is such a cool thing to have, that many places in companies that I know were developing chatbots independently, and it could be just something which you could bring it into one shop and sort of reduce the redundancy and handle it correctly from that side. But that's one of the advantages of having a classically effective PMO, is to look at those kind of things and see where are the redundancies and how that can be reduced. The most important thing in an effective PMO is that the outcomes are managed. It's not just the deliverables and timelines and the budget which gets managed, but the outcome of it is managed better. Outcomes is one step closer towards the benefits that are going to be realized, and which brings us to the final thing over here, along the journey of a PMO, which is benefits realization. And again, like I said before, it's a term which probably means different things to different people. Benefits is not about just making sure that the deliverables are complete. Benefits can accrue across the life cycle of the project, but also way beyond the life cycle of the project. So there's an opportunity to look at what kind of benefits you're expecting this project to produce, and to make sure that they are tracked effectively even after the project is complete. And the organization which can do that is the PMO, because it's kind of over and above the project level, right? So The alignment to goals and strategy is something which is an important factor in benefits realization, because you could have projects which are done without understanding what the sort of specific goal or the strategy that the company is using. And if you don't have that alignment, then you kind of have missed the point of having the project in the first place. So active tracking of benefits and value realized by the project. And this is one place where you think in terms of who is the beneficiary of the project as well, and what, not just what the benefit of the project is. That's a very, very important fact when you think in terms of uh, the benefits which you got, who is going to be benefiting from this, so that you can engage them to help with the project in some cases, to provide you inputs in some cases, to even sort of shape the project a little better. So when you think in terms of stakeholders for the project, we often have this notion that the most obvious stakeholders are connected. But when you think in terms of benefits of the project, we look at a bigger picture, and we realize that there may be other groups completely outside even the group that you're in, which basically are going to be beneficiaries of the project. And that becomes a different animal altogether. I did an exercise. It was a worldwide exercise once for a company in the financial services sector. And in that, the problem statement given to me was that there are three stakeholder groups that we have to satisfy in this project. And I remember asking them to sort of have this allow me to do an exercise to see which are the other stakeholder groups which might be impacted, and what they may benefit from. I was told very clearly, we've told you it's three, so why do you want to waste time on that? And I requested just 45 minutes to do that. And this is an absolute true story. When we finished at the end of the 45 minutes, we had 53 different groups which would be benefiting uh, from the exercise that we were carrying out. And that gave us a tremendously different lens in terms of understanding what this project was all about and how we wanted to go about doing it. So there's also an opportunity when you're thinking it from a benefit realization perspective, how to reprioritize projects so that they're better aligned to strategy. Uh, and of course, this tends to be more cross-functional. It has to better collaboration, and it's breaks down silos, because projects don't work in that individual vacuum that you're talking about. So any PMO which basically aspires to get to this level, and there are quite a few of them in the industry. This is kind of where it is, to me, the maturity of the PMO organization comes into the picture. So interestingly enough, as I got into the life sciences industry, I found that there are a number of uh, terms which were sort of used differently and slanted differently, and one of them was the role of a project manager. So in life sciences companies, especially, or even in healthcare companies, I've noticed the word project and a project manager to mean one of somebody who basically does repeatable projects. So when I mean repeatable projects, they are projects which basically tend to sort of have a similar kind of things which happen year over year. It's not quite operational in the sense of the word, that it does have a start and an end, and hence can be qualified as a project. But the functions which are needed in that project tend to be more around coordination of projects, setting up meetings, capturing the minutes of the meeting, and maintaining the various artifacts such as the RAID log for risks and actions and issues and decisions. If you do that right, that does lead to success for those kind of projects. But I'm also talking about some of these unique projects which can come about, which are one-time projects. They've never been. There's a component of it which has never been done before. My own group within Merck does exactly those kind of projects, which are unique, one-off projects which have never been done before, and the accent on that is different. The accent on that is more of collaboration, of course, of planning and execution and risk management, and those kind of things which you would expect to have some of it in the repeatable projects as well. But here the accent is on using the project artifacts to drive benefits. I talked, remember, earlier about the fact that you could stop at a checklist and say that this is complete, but the other is to say how is this is taking the intent of the project of those artifacts to drive benefits. There's a huge component of communications and change management in these projects. Any project that we do, which is a one-off, not been done before kind of thing, tends to have a transformative component to it, tends to have a strategic initiative associated with that, and which usually means somebody has to change at the end of the project. So that's something which these kind of projects tend to have a lot of, and there is a lot of facilitation, consensus building, which needs to happen in these kind of projects. So why are we talking about the PMOs in this context over here is also because PMOs often tend to be that sort of center of excellence, if you will, for raising projects, project managers and project management skills to sort of get them to that next level where it can be managed. Throughout the conference today, we have a lot of exciting discussions which talk about various facets of this whole thing. There are great sort of speakers over here, some of them I know very well, who are going to talk about a number of things, including things like setting up a portfolio management function, which is there in the afternoon today, and on disruption, building resource and demand capacity and stuff of that kind. So when you think of the PMO in those terms, that you have all of those components coming in over here, also think in the kind of projects that we are expected to manage in the PMO. So if you are in a PMO, or if you are setting up a PMO which tends to have more repeatable projects, then there's a different set of skills which are required. But if you do have something which have got unique projects coming up, then think in terms of the various different other skill sets that you might require within the projects. So how do you get there? I realize I have a few minutes left. Oh yeah, so let me just talk a little about. So quickly, increase the focus on value and benefits and identify the beneficiaries early. This is a big one. It's often missed. Is to think in terms of why we are doing the project, in terms of more of the value and skills, and of course having it aligned to strategy and goals is the thing which follows from there. But identifying the beneficiary is one thing that most of us don't do very well earlier on in the project, to make sure who's going to benefit from this project's completion and success. From that, you think in terms of upskilling the PMs to having a more robust toolkit. So we know that agility has been the quote unquote buzzword for a number of years now, and yet it means different things to different people. So agility is not sort of a replacement for the PM skills that we have. It's just one more tool in the PM's toolkit. So as I see it, PMs need to have additional skills in their toolkit, which would be things like facilitation. Change management is to be just an integral part of a PM's job now, almost, because the projects are maturing and getting to a different level. However, if you are doing repeatable projects, then the change management component is much lower or non-existent. On the other side of projects, change management becomes a big deal. So this is something that PMs, if they're equipped to have, it is certainly very, very helpful. So agility and the ability to work with unknowns. Now, when you're working on a project which has quote unquote never been done before, then you are by definition working with unknowns, right? And the project manager has to have a different set of skills, the ability to facilitate getting the information from places which are where you may not have enough known knowledge about the various things that you need to have. Also, selection of projects with a clear alignment to strategy and goals. Oftentimes, projects are just thrown out as a project to be done without necessarily pointing out to why and the larger good that the project is trying to solve for. And to make sure that the alignment is understood by all stakeholders. So that's another one. And the final thing which I would leave you with, as I realize we are 1 minute to the end of my talk, is innovate fearlessly. You think of the number of tools which you have currently coming out, not just in our world, but in the outer world in general, AI and natural language processing and artificial intelligence. There are tools which are coming up, and some of them are being showcased in our conference today and tomorrow. they are opportunities to innovate fearlessly if you've got the first basics down right. There are excellent tools and technologies which will support that initiative. So with that, I realize I've come to the end of the 9:30 time frame. I'm excited as much as you are to hear what the rest of the people have to say. So enjoy the conference. Katie, I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Sachin. It was such an insightful keynote. Honestly, I can see the comment section, and there you've started a storm. You've started a storm, and I'm pretty sure I'll be posting all the questions to our PPM workout platform so we can all discuss and talk about it. All the questions means people connecting, like-minded people connecting, and that's all we care about, really. So please go on there. We'll try to answer as many as we can. Sachin is there as well as one of our members, so you can connect with him directly. And with this, I would like to thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. And have a wonderful day. We're going to be back shortly with another presentation from one of our sponsors. So please see you in a few seconds.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.